May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Please be seated. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Noting none, I need a motion for the regular council meeting minutes of August 14th, 2023, and irregular in-camera meetings of minutes of August 14th, 23. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Discussion, all in favor, carried. First, we have a presentation, the Weege Award on behalf of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. Amanda Azzopardi is here to represent and receive the award and to tell us a little bit more about the award. So I first will present it, and then we can talk about it. It's a fancy box here, Clarence. Yes, it weighs a ton. So I was wondering why that was a fan, but on behalf of Bell Ontario, we received this award. Thank you for helping us out on this. For picture. We're good. And why don't you tell us what the environmental impacts of the rock ones one.
Thank you, Mayor Ellis and Council, for having me here today. I'm Amanda Azzopardi, the Environmental Coordinator for Environmental Services in the City of Belleville. And today I'm going to talk about our Litter Trap Initiative. According to the federal government in Canada, it is estimated that 1% of plastic pollution ends up in our waterways. 1% doesn't seem like that much, but in 2016, this amounted to 29,000 tons of plastic pollution entering our waterways, and that was back in 2016. A little bit about the litter traps and their applications. As you can see from the visual in front of you, they're reusable mesh baskets that are installed and sit inside the catch basins below the storm drains. These traps capture litter and other pollutants and keep them out of our waterways. Environmental Services has installed the traps, empties them regularly, and records them as needed. In 2021, the City of Belleville's Green Task Force Committee initiated a pilot project for the litter traps. We installed 3 litter traps within the City of Belleville. One was Bell Boulevard, just west of Veteran Memorial Bridge, Moira Street, just south of the tracks, and the third one was at Centennial Secondary School. Throughout the year 2021, we monitored the traps every month and recorded the material that we found. The project was a huge success, and in 2021 alone, we captured 14 kilograms of litter. Due to the success of the project, we aimed to expand. In 2022, Environmental Services applied and received funding from the ministry and the Great Lakes and Local Action Fund. We now have 20 litter traps within the City of Belleville. Selecting the locations for the 20 litter traps came with a challenge. We chose high traffic areas that would bring the most foot traffic in hopes of catching the most litter and diverting from waterways, as well as storm drains that discharge directly into the Moira River. Capabilities of the traps. Through sampling, we have come to understand that we're able to capture a lot more than just litter. We were actually able to capture sediments as well, which was an extra bonus. So we quickly adjusted our methodology and started recording the amount of sediment that we were capturing, as well as the weight of the litter. As you can see from the picture, this Environmental Services, we kind of put a stick in it and we measure the amount of sediment, and we're recording that as well. The Home Depot bucket, which you see in the photo as well, we're emptying, we can remove the basket, we're emptying the material, and we're weighing the material that we find. As I mentioned, in 2021, we were doing this every month. We were recording what we were finding in the traps. When we expanded the program to 20 traps, we were sampling every 4 months. Through trial and error, we learned that 1 month was too short and 4 months were too long. We think we found the sweet spot now, sampling every 2 months, and as of June, we'll be sampling every 2 months, and if there's significant weather events, we also go to sample then as well. This is the data, and I know it might be a lot to digest, so let me help break it down. This is the sediment amount alone captured for each of the traps. The horizontal axis shows all 20 traps, and they're identified based on the address where the traps are located. The bottom left of your screen, CB_205 Coleman, stands for catch basin _ the address. It's located at 205 Coleman Street, and it is the same all the way through for all the other traps, 20 in total. The sediment in centimeters is found on the y-axis. We have recorded March and June, March depicted in red and June depicted in orange. We broke a record in June, it looks like. 305 North Front Street captured 40 centimeters of sediment in that trap. This one's not as daunting, it's very similar. It's the weight of the material that we're capturing. Here is where we're recording the single-use plastics that we're finding. Everything ranging from cigarette butts to balloon wrappers, food wrappers, kind of everything in between. Similarly, same thing, the horizontal axis, we see all 20 traps identified by address, and on the y-axis, the weight of material in kilograms, and then March and June as well. Moving forward in June, we'll be sampling more frequently. It looks like we have 60 Bridge Street took the cake in March with 50 kilograms of material found. This is a visual I put together to help depict some of the high density areas where we found the litter within the city of Belleville. Again, targeting areas along the Moira River. And this was just taking the data and putting it together into a visual to show the high density locations. A large part of this project has been sharing the success. With help from our communications department, we launched the Find the Waves initiative. As you can see in the photo, it's a little bit shaded, but we have spray painted all of the catch basins with a blue wave where a litter trap is currently located within that storm drain. So there are 20 within the city of Belleville. And the Find the Waves initiative seeks to educate our residents on the idea of what's going in your storm drain is ending up in your drinking water. And it kind of ended up being a fun initiative. They're trying to find all 20 waves around the city as well, so that worked out well. And again, we've been not only sharing this within the city of Belleville, with other municipalities as well as our residents. And from this, we've been recognized for the success of the project. The Week Small City Sustainability Best Practice Award. This award balances economic, social, and environmental aspects within the community that can be used as a best practice for other cities. And this was awarded to us on behalf of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence City Initiative. From this award, we were also granted $7,500 to be put towards another stormwater restoration project, and that is currently, the planning is underway for McFarland Storm Pond to implement a naturalization project to help Belleville develop a best practice approach for stormwater management and storm pond management. This program could not have been made possible from the Green Task Force Committee's initiatives, which launched the pilot project, the city's green policy, which calls for environmental action and sustainability planning, the City of Belleville's 2021 climate emergency, which allows us to seek funding, as well as our environmental services continuous efforts for best practices in stormwater management. And I'd like to thank environmental services, wastewater collection staff, and operators for their expertise and diligence to help make this project as successful as it has been. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions for Amanda? Councilor Millette.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, and I just want to congratulate Amanda and our staff in Environmental Services for this. As Chair of the Green Task Force, Amanda makes us all look good. This committee of council has, and I'm not bragging because we're on it now, but in the last few years, some tangible initiatives, and we're really making a difference. And when you are recognized in this regard, we've gotten some positive press on this. I think last week we were down in CKWS Global from Kingston, did a feature on the litter traps, and Amanda was explaining how it works. These are things that make a difference in our community. Every piece of that plastic that is taken out of the litter traps and these storm drains are one less piece that winds up in the river and eventually into the bay. And as we know, microplastics and plastics are a big invasive problem in our waterways and our drinking water. So, you know, this initiative is may not look terribly sexy. When you see what's in the bin, it definitely isn't sexy, but it is making a difference. And again, my thanks to Amanda and all your help, and thanks for making us look good on the Green Task Force.
Councillor Chatton?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Azapardi, for giving us that rundown. I was wondering if you could tell me, when did the litter traps start? When were they first initiated in the area? And the other thing that I wanted to ask was, has it been long enough to determine whether there's a significant impact to lowering flooding on certain streets specifically? Because as we know, if there's something in between the drains and the water getting through the drains, we're going to have higher flooding areas. So my specific questions are about South Front Street and Canifton Road. I did notice that there was one storm drain that was outfitted with a litter trap in Canifton. Did that have a significant impact on the flooding?
Through the chair to Councillor Ann Chatton, thanks for the question. We started recording all 20 traps as of January 2023 is when they were installed. And then we did our March and our June, that was every 4 months. And then we noticed we were waiting a bit too long and we went to every 2 months. The traps do have a bypass in terms of flooding. They have a bypass, so when the traps do get filled up with sediment and litter, they are able to bypass. And we also are sampling during significant weather events as well, to help make sure that everything is flowing smoothly, and we have yet to have a problem since the project's been running in 2021. Thanks.
Motion to receive, Councillor Enright Miller, Councillor Alsop, all in favor, carried. I need a resolution that council rise and go into committee of the whole to hear and consider reports passing of the recommendations and resolutions with Councillor Alsop in the chair. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? Carried.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we'll move to item 8A, reports. The agenda shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council. Item 8A1, City of Belleville Investment Policy. The resolution is that council approve the recommendations of the Finance Committee as outlined in the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report number DF-2023-17 and approve the revised policy for the investment policy. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. I'll open the floor for discussion. Yes, Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. I just want to make some comments. I would like to recommend to Council that we accept the recommended changes as outlined in the report. As the report points out, we on the Finance Committee reviewed the city's policy for the investment of the city's municipal funds. Staff presented to us all of the investment platforms, investment criteria as it relates to duration of investment and returns which are permitted to the municipality for investment. And we're happy to report that all the procedures are and were in line with legislation for investing for municipal monies. And the Finance Department presented to the committee a comprehensive investment strategy through these revised policies to enhance and protect a positive portfolio of return on all its city's investments. So I will be supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Enright Miller. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. We'll move to item 8A2, 2024 Preliminary Capital Budget Survey Results. The resolution is that council approve the recommendations of the Finance Committee as outlined in the Accounting Coordinator's Report number AC-2023-06, and that the 2024 capital budget guidelines be approved. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Mayor Ellis, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion? Councillor Thompson.
Just a couple of comments more than anything. It's interesting when it says service level, 27% of the people that replied would be willing to pay more for taxes if services increased. So it'd be interesting to see what the public want in services has increased if they're willing to pay for it. And the other couple of things is they're not willing to, they're willing to pay more for services in the sports field and in the arenas, but yet they want to defer anything more to do with Parks and Recreation, which really shines a bit of a light with the new development we have over in the Lonesome area. So when you see that, you say, well, should we be doing what we need to be doing over there with those sort of stats at 44%? So just a couple of notes that I seen on the, and maybe the author would, person that, staff would like to make any comments on this particular survey.
Yes, I believe Brianne, our Deputy Treasurer, is here. Do you have some comments for us?
Through the chair. Yeah, the survey results were well received. Sorry, they were well received, and it's not surprising that ratepayers will generally lean towards core infrastructure, which is why we've developed the guidelines as read. So that really is the approach that we went with in the report, and we are generally happy with the engagement that we had in our first round with our engagement strategy.
Thank you, and I certainly was surprised at the number of people that replied to it, and I encourage that, we keep this dialogue with the public to continue to see what they want and what we can provide for us. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Thompson. I'll go around clockwise. Councillor Carr?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And just briefly, I want to say thank you to the Finance Committee, my colleagues that sit on the committee with me. A lot of times our asset management plan is going to dictate where capital funding is allocated, but nonetheless, it's always important that we're consulting with the municipal taxpayers and the residents of the city and finding out what their priorities are and making sure that their money is being allocated where they'd like to see it go. The other side that I've discovered as we've done these surveys is, well, we're starting out with some really good public education, and I want to thank the finance department for putting together a very good communication tool on budget process, what goes into a budget. We still have a lot of work to do in terms of educating the public on processes. It's interesting, the city receives quarterly payments from OLG as part of the casino agreement. And invariably you see comments online, where's that money going? How come my taxes are still going up? Not really understanding the complexities of the municipal budget and how that, while those funds certainly are allocated to specific things, whether they be capital projects or investments in vehicles, et cetera, or also for grants out to very many community organizations. There's a lot more that goes into a budget, as we all know. And so educating the public on the process and having them be a part of the process has been missing for many years, and so moving this way is certainly a step in the right direction. So again, thank you to finance staff.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Anne Marie Miller?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I would just like to also thank staff in the Finance Department, the Corporate Services Department for undertaking the public survey and being able to get the messaging out to the public in the way that you did for public input, and not an easy task at all. And then to take all the information and compile it and give us the report. Public input is how the city funds are being spent is key and very helpful to us when drafting a budget and budget procedures. Input from the public helps guide council and staff when it comes to items like user pay and knowing what are the priorities and important things to taxpayers, etc. We can be guided by taxpayer input. And the survey also helped us realize our asset management plan continues to be a priority to residents, and they are in favor of investment in our city infrastructure. So the results of the survey were very interesting indeed and will help us prioritize the items when the budget is reviewed. And I would like to recommend that we approve the resolution before us. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Anne Marie Miller. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Item 8A3, amendment to city committees and boards, members of various committees and committee terms of reference. The resolution is that pursuant to the Director of Corporate Services Clerk's Report, number DCS-2023-18, amendment city committees and boards, members, various, and committee terms of reference, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 2023-09, the appointments bylaw, be prepared for council's consideration, and that the affected terms of reference be updated accordingly. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. Item 8A4, Contract Positions Bylaw, Property Standards Officers. The resolution is that pursuant to the Director of Engineering and Development Services Report, number DEDS-2023-03, that 2 new contract positions for bylaw property standards officers be approved and that the 2023 operating budget be increased by $60,800 for the 2 new bylaw property standards officers contract positions for 4 months within the Engineering and Development Services bylaw section, and that the funding be provided from the Tax Rate Stabilization Reserve Fund, and that pre-budget approval for the 2024 operating budget in the amount of $121,500 be approved for the 2 new bylaw property standards officers contract positions for an 8-month period within the Engineering and Development Services bylaw section, and that the funding be provided from taxation. Mover and second, moved by Mayor Ellis, seconded by Councillor Carr. Any discussion? Yes, we'll start clockwise. Councillor Thompson.
Just a very simple question, well, maybe not as simple, but why contract position? We all know that we are dire need of staff in the bylaw department. We have, well, even looking at the figures of the number of incidences that people, our taxpayers have, and we're looking at a contract. Simply, why are we not going to permanent positions to fill these and take care of it?
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I'll direct that through to our Director of Engineering and Development Services, Mr. Stephen Ashton. Or I will not do that. I'll direct it to Ms. Mary Doherty in HR.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Thompson. The bylaw positions are contract to assist us in filling an immediate need, to address the backlog and the number of cases that we currently have. So it is an interim measure. Stephen Ashton will be bringing forward a proposal for permanent bylaw officers at a later date. So Stephen, did you want to add further comment?
So yeah, I think, it is, that is correct. It is an interim measure. And as well, I think senior management is bringing forward sort of feedback on the organizational review. And part of it is the consolidation of bylaw, parking, and licensing. So there would be sort of, this is an interim measure until that system is in place, and then we can kind of come up with an ideal solution.
Sort of further to that, does it have any detrimental effect on our applications if it's advertised as a contract or as a permanent full-time position? Because we want the best we can get, and if it's going to deter us from getting the best.
And I'll put that through to Director of Human Resources.
Okay, through the chair, yes, to be frank, that could impede some officers who would be willing to apply for a longer term, and it will be longer term for probably a duration of 12 months. But we want to get people in and we want to get it done as quickly as possible. So we thought it would be best to do a 4-month term to get people in the door. Stephen?
Nothing further to add.
All right, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other discussion? Councillor Chatton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I'm just wondering, is this, even the interim positions, is that something that council will be appointing as provincial offences officers to enforce these bylaws? Or how will this be a contractor position? Is this something that will go out for tender, or are we hiring directly to the department? I believe that's for...
Yes, Director of HR.
The chair. We would be hiring, as we always do, for casual positions, I'm assuming, Stephen?
Yes, they'd be under the department, and then they'd be working with our existing bylaw officers.
So further to that, are they going to be appointed by council to be provincial offences officers, or are you going to manage them under the specific bylaw umbrella?
Okay, so, sorry, I'll bring up our CBO who oversees the day-to-day operations to answer that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Second time around, Mr. Chair, councillors, mayor, executive management team. We'd appoint the successful candidates as bylaw enforcement officers like the ones we have. So it wouldn't be a contract for bylaw enforcement outside work. It would be temporary employment and appointed as bylaw officers.
Understood. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And we'll move on to Councillor Millet.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Mr. Forrestal, don't sit down. I think you're probably best to answer my next question, if you don't mind. Through you, Chair, to Mr. Forrestal, the increase in calls for service for our much overworked existing force of bylaw enforcement officers. I'm seeing the total cases entered in the page 6 of the report. Clean yards 366, property standards 206. Can you just give me an idea of what I'm getting at is I'm sure everybody around this table has had calls from people. We have a large number of students that are in housing where we have a number of students living in rental housing. The resulting sometimes clean yards and property standards result from some of these overused properties, if you will. Is this part and parcel of what we're seeing in some of our increased calls for service?
Mr. Forrestal?
Through the chair to Councillor Millet. Certainly the overcrowding in housing has added to the number of cases and the types of cases. The overcrowding in houses would be under the category of a zoning compliance infraction rather than a property standards or the clean yards, but clean yards and property standards are certainly a result of overcrowding, and overcrowding cases are certainly increasing, becoming more of a problem.
Okay, so just the number of cases that we're working on now. What's the bulk of the complaints? Because we've got a general, of 500 and I'm seeing 570 some odd of the 732 are both property standards and clean yards. Is this everything from long grass to just general refuse in clean yards and property standards? Can you just give us a general idea of what that entails? Because that's a lot of calls.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Millet. The officers choose between property standards and clean yards as an option to deal with the similar type complaints. Mm-hmm. It's just how they're going to clean yards is a quicker mechanism to get to a cleanup. So if we think we're going to be involved in a cleanup, then we're going to do the clean yards because we're going to make it quicker. Property standards tend to be larger issues dealing with trees and larger cleanups. Okay. Yeah. And then everything in between from litter and grass and encampments.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was my last. We're dealing now, some of our bylaw enforcement people are having to deal with small encampments and cleaning up or, enforcement of bylaws in terms of encampments.
Correct, through the chair to Councillor Millet. Encampments on private property is dealt with by bylaw enforcement officers. Encampments on city property is handled through operations.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Forrestal. Councillor Millet. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just some comments. Over the last 5 years, I've worked on occasion closely with the bylaw officers, and they have a tough job. They keep our city organized. They're in the tough weeds sometimes, dealing with some challenges, and they keep our city clean too. And I went through Mr. Ashton and his staff report, and I just want to bring this up so those watching at home or
Want to find out later on YouTube that there was a study done, caseload work in 2016. The city matched up with other municipalities, similar size. Belleville has 3 bylaw officers, and we're in the process of adding 2 temps. The city had 386 cases per individual, right? Is that right, Mr. Forrestal?
Through the chair to Councillor Kelly. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the highest of all the municipalities that are similar size to Belleville. And I did want to just mention too some of the work that's conducted by a bylaw officer. Not everybody has an idea. They deal with property standards, maintenance, noise property standards. They regulate donation receptacles. They regulate portable signs. They make sure all-terrain vehicles on the municipality are behaving properly. So they do a lot of stuff. So I want to champion them and continued success with the bylaw officers in the city. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more discussion, all in favor? It's carried. Moving on to item 8A5, adoption of the City of Belleville Transit Operational Review and Master Plan. The resolution is that pursuant to the General Manager of Transportation and Operations Services Report, GMTOS-2023-24, adoption of the Transit Operational Review and Master Plan for the City of Belleville, a bylaw be prepared for Council's consideration to approve and adopt the Transit Operational Review and Master Plan. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Any discussion? Councillor Brown.
Thank you. First of all, I want to offer my thanks to Brad Strauss from our transit group. Brad has invested an inordinate amount of time working through the Transit Master Plan, working with the external consultants. He has pushed and nudged and niggled and made sure that this is the really the best that it can be. Also spent a lot of time walking me through the Transit Master Plan to make sure that I really fully understood what the changes were. When you're looking at a whole series of maps and such, it is sometimes it's like really what changed, and in reality a lot has changed. And so I want to extend my thanks to Brad. Also to, of course, General Manager Joe Reed. Joe has been as close as the phone every time I have a question when it pertains to this particular report. I do want to encourage anyone around council. I really hope that you will support this document. There's a lot of work that went into this. I know it's not always apparent, again, from a document the size that I'm flashing around here, but some of the key findings were, did the routes actually change? In reality, they did. And the reason that the routes changed was that through 2 public information sessions, it was made abundantly clear to us that people would be more supportive of having to walk a little bit further to a bus stop if it meant that we could shorten the end-to-end route times from start to destination. And so one of the things that you will find within this Transit Master Plan is we reduced the average transportation time from anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes from end to end to 30 minutes from end to end, simply by reconfiguring some of the routes and by reducing the number of bus stops, by moving them, interestingly enough, only another 150 meters. So the average bus stop was 350 meters from door to stop, the bus stop, and it's been increased to 400. So again, I do hope that I can encourage you to support the Transit Master Plan, and I'm looking forward to hearing any discussion from members of council. Thank you.
Great, and thank you to Manager Reed and of course Mr. Strauss, who's in the audience today. Any further discussion on this item? Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, and I thank Chair Councillor Brown for chairing the committee and bringing us through this. And it's a good plan. There's certainly lots of in-depth in the report. And it's certainly, if anybody wants to hear from the person that's presented it, it's great. I just want to make one note, and I think it's important, and Councillor Enright Miller chairs the accessibility, but this did not include anything on the accessibility, and nothing, not derogatory to the committee, on the accessibility buses. I'm an advocate for the accessibility system. We will be looking at it in the future on the accessibility issues of how we can better do it. Sometime in the future, I see Mr. Reid nodding over there and smiling, and he says, yes, Karen, it's going to happen. And there also will be other dialogue on the expansion of our city, where we go from here. This centered in more on what we have, and as Councillor Brown said, shortening the time span, making it more accessible to everybody on the regular service. But there will be dialogue on the future of city, whether it be and out into the Ward 2 and the accessibility. So those are just 2 points, nothing derogatory to the plan. Just wanted to make those 2 points known to the public that both of those will be addressed. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Ellery Miller.
Thank you, Chair, through you, and I just wanted to congratulate Councillor Brown and Mr. Reid on a fabulous transit master plan. It was a very big undertaking and very successful. The end result is very successful, and thank you, Councillor Thompson, for pointing out that yes, us on the accessibility committee are always championing, and I know that Mr. Reid has not forgotten us, and we are at the table talking, and we can certainly say with all certainty that our accessibility people will be looked after, and thank you for all that you have done in October. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Enright Miller. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Carr.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question. Obviously, part of the master plan is not just to look at today, but also look at the future. And the future may be a little closer for one area of the city in particular, and that's in the Potters Creek area. There's significant development in that area that is been designated as our high growth area for the city, and you know, we hope builders continue to build at a much more rapid pace than they are now. But there is a lot of existing homes on the west side of the Potters Creek development that would appear to be outside of a route, and as I've said in this place previously, those residents are currently paying for transit in their taxes. So if I could, through to you, to General Manager Reid, is pose the question, how are we servicing those residents in there? They're currently paying for transit in their taxes, but don't seem to be getting the transit reach in that one area.
General Manager Reid?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Carr. Yes, unfortunately, the Potters Creek subdivision as it sits right now is not really conducive to a route in and out. Through the planning stages, the consultant has given us some service guidelines, and as we continue to grow, and as you can see, there was a memo at the back on options as it continues to grow, as we see Avonlea subdivision pan out and connect into Avonlow Road, it'll allow us conductivity to get people to and from. There is areas and pockets within Potters Creek that's just beyond the 500 meters, and we do understand that. But we do ask for some patience from the residents, and as we see that build out and connectivity with the rest of the area, we'll see a better area.
So if I could, then it's fair to say that if builders continue to build, then the transit service will be a lot more efficient in that area.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Chair, I just elevated you.
I've been called worse things.
Promotion, yep. Through you to Mr. Reid. Mr. Reid, the portion of the report that examines the fleet plan, and as we all know, we've long discussed, and it's in our existing plan to convert the existing petroleum-fueled transit fleet to 100% zero emission by 2050. That's a ways off, but we do have an aging fleet, and I think if anybody reads into the plan or the report, you'll see that we're rolling. Some of our rolling stock has been purchased in 2005, and as old as that, and a lot of them are into 06, 08, 010, 11. And the electrification of the fleet, I guess, is a moving target at this point. So I just felt that this might be a good time to remind everyone where we're at in terms of that process, and how or if we can expect to see our first electric bus on the streets.
Yes, I'll put that through to General Manager Reid.
Through the chair to Councillor Millette. As you know, we are undertaking the battery electric feasibility study to kind of determine how Belleville could fit within that constraint of electrification. We are working with Nova Bus right now on, I back it up slightly. We did have a bus that caught fire. We were just getting the settlement information from the insurance company. Once we can confirm that, we'll be looking at maybe options, whether it's a diesel hybrid, to kind of open up that gateway into electrification. But the battery electric study is going to give us an idea of what we're going to take for infrastructure costs. But also keep in mind too that through our 2023 capital budget and the ISIP applications that we did put in for the transit stream, we did put in for 5 new buses. So that could kind of help us, and we've kind of been planning for this. So we'll probably looking at a phased-in approach, but it's a little premature to give you exact details right now.
Yes, Councillor Millette.
Yes, and just one minor point on that. The 5 new that we're expecting now, they will be, diesel buses. These are far more the latest generation of the diesel, and if there's such a thing, I guess in terms of emissions, these are far more emission friendly, if you will, from anything we purchased almost 20 years ago, correct?
Yes, the updates to the DEF fluid and the other emission controls that are in place in the new diesel buses. But Brad and I have been working with Nova, looking at different options to maybe phase this in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Millette. Councillor Chatton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I wanted to take a minute just to applaud the Chair Brown and her committee, and of course Manager Reid's staff on the work that was done on this master plan. I also wanted to point out that plans generally allow for adjustments, and while the idea is to be proactive, there is room for reactive measures as the plan unfolds, correct? There is a way for citizens to reach out outside of just reaching out to their council representatives to be heard for anything outside of a survey as well, for anything that they would like to proactively adjust to the plan. Is that a possibility?
Yes, I'll put that through to General Manager Reid, and then if there's comments from any other councillors afterwards, we can have those as well.
Yeah. Through Chair to there was a robust survey taken place. There was PICs throughout the process. This has been a bit of a 1 year, actually greater than 1 year process. But now that we're going to be asking council to adapt to this plan, one of the things is a transit planning philosophy. So as we see the city grows, there's service guidelines that allow us to meet and have KPIs and making sure that we're performing. So as residents see issues, they can bring it forward, and if it aligns within the strategies that's being adopted by council, we can adjust accordingly.
Great, thank you. Yes, Councillor Chatton.
Thank you. Follow up to that. Sorry, Manager Reid. So should residents connect with you directly through your department, or would you prefer they do something different? I just want to open up a way for residents to get their voices heard more quickly regarding transportation.
Residents are always welcome to contact our office, and ultimately, if there's any significant changes being recommended, we'll advise the Transit Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more discussion, all in favor? It's carried. We move on to item 8B, consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. I'll go around counterclockwise, starting with Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Millette.
No, thank you.
Councillor Chatton.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Brown.
No, thank you.
Mayor Ellis.
No, thank you.
Councillor Enright Miller.
8B6.
8B6. Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Thank you. 8B4 and 8B6, please.
8B.
8B4, and I'd like to speak on 8B6 as well.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
No, thank you.
All right. So the resolution is that the consent items be approved with the exceptions of item 8B4 and 8B6. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? It's carried. So move to item 8B4. This is the execution of cost recovery agreement, Black Bear Ridge Limited Partnership and 449 Harmony Road, Inc. The resolution is that a bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of a cost recovery agreement between Black Bear Ridge GP Inc., 449 Harmony Road, Inc., and the Corporation of the City of Belleville be prepared for council's consideration, and that the respective agreement and related documentation not be signed until such time as the manager of approvals advises that the owners have satisfied all city requirements. This was pulled by Councillor Carr. Do I have a seconder? A second by Councillor Enright Miller. I'll move to Councillor Carr for discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's important to point out here that as the Black Bear Ridge Group endeavors on a very large growth project, that this agreement allows for the cost recovery of staff time. And I have a question through you to Director Ashton. I know that the local home building industry is watching this, and with some dedicated staff being allocated to the Black Bear Ridge project, could he explain what the impact that'll be in terms of other projects, other housing projects within the pipeline that builders expect?
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Director Ashton.
So the intention is that there will be no impact within the existing proposed developments that are within the urban boundary. They'll continue with all our staff resources. This cost recovery agreement will allow us to hire additional outside consultants whom the developer will pay for, but they will still work on behalf of the city to undertake the review and processing of the applications. In terms of allocation for sanitary and water, first priority is to ensure that there's no negative impact to the lands within the urban developed area, and that allocation won't be taken from those existing lands within the urban boundary.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on item 8B4? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. We'll move to item 8B6, the Development Charge Reserve Fund Treasurer Statement for the year ended December 31st, 2022. The resolution is that the report number DF-2023-16, Development Charge Reserve Fund Treasurer Statement for the year ended December 31st, 2022 be received for information. This was pulled by Councillor Enright Miller. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Carr. Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Chair, through you. And it's more of a comment and a thank you. And we've been provided the annual report from our Treasurer, Brandon Ferguson, outlining the development charges for year ending December 2022. And thank you to Brandon and his finance team for this. Development charges are key to recoup the costs of development growth in our community. Infrastructure to service all new development, be it industrial, commercial, or residential, is expensive, and the city has formulas outlining of charges in place to offset these costs for servicing and to meet the planned growth in our city. Staff must report all development funds collected each year, and this information is available to the public. This year's Development Charges Annual Report, ending December 2022, outlines all the monies collected, what they were for, and what funds they were distributed to over our fiscal year 2022. And I would recommend that we receive this Development Charge Report from our Treasurer's Statement year ending December 2022, and that it be received. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Enright Miller. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Carr.
Thank you, and just to follow up on my colleague's comments, in addition to municipal governments being accused as gatekeepers to growth and development, the other finger that gets pointed all the time is to development charges and how these are prohibiting building and prohibiting growth in the community. But for a long time, growth needs to pay for growth. And so when the finger gets pointed that these development charges should just be pushed aside and that will lower the cost of housing, well, the cost associated with roads, water, wastewater, police, fire, growth-related studies, ambulance, social housing, parks and recreation, and library have to then be paid by someone. And so that would then fall on the existing taxpayers. And so I think it's important to point out publicly that these funds are necessary As my colleague said, they are accounted for, and while there is a significant balance in there, in conjunction with our asset management plan and with our projected growth, and more currently, our projected growth is much higher than what we anticipated even in our background study when it comes to our official plan. These funds are going to be necessary in order to offset those costs associated with growth. So again, we can remove those, but then everybody has to be prepared to pay more as an existing taxpayer. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Carr. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. We'll move to item 8C, council information matters. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. We'll go around the table the other direction. Councillor Thompson.
No, thank you.
Councillor Carr.
No, thank you.
Councillor Enright Miller.
No, thank you.
Mayor Ellis. Councillor Brown.
No, thank you.
Councillor Chatton.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Millette.
No, thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
All right, so the resolution is that the agenda items be received. May I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Brown. All in favor? It's carried. I need a motion to rise and report. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Millette. All in favor? It's carried.
Thank you, Councillor Alsop. I need a motion for first reading of bylaw 2023-151, 152, 153, 154, and 155. Moved by Councillor Tatton, second by Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? Carried. Second reading and discussion of bylaw 2023-151, 152, 153, 154, and 155. Moved by Councillor Alsop, Councillor Thompson. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. And third and final reading of bylaw 2023-151, 152, 153, 154 and 155, moved by Councillor Enright Miller, Councillor Alsop. All in favor? Carried. New business. Ooh, lots of hands. Councillor Brown?
Thank you. It probably goes without saying to everyone around this table that we're in the midst of a housing crisis. And the rise in the number of STAs across Quinte region, we can recognize as being one of many contributing factors to why we seem to have a shortage of housing. Housing should be viewed as a place to raise a family, for us to thrive within a community. Housing should not be looked at as being a commodity. And yet there's a lot of information that has been made available about moving from the larger cities where significant dollars can be made on a sale there typically results in an excess of capital when they come to somewhere like Belleville. In March 2022, March 28th, 2022, the city approved bylaw number 2022-52, requiring renewable licensing on short-term accommodations. However, to date, the number of licenses that have actually been issued have fallen well short of the target that was established. A target that in and of itself was probably established with a limited understanding of the actual number of STAs that are actually located within the city of Belleville. So with a few rather unscientific Dr. Google searches on the booking sites, two of the major sites that we knew, we now know that there are significantly more STAs than the 150 that was the original target in the bylaw. I'll share with you my rather unscientific understanding, not the number of STAs, but the number of STAs that were available on a specific date, and I searched too, was well over the 800 mark. That's just what's available on those dates. It does not suggest all of the other places where STAs can be located. So that rather unscientific search sent me on a mission, and we are now with no detailed information available to how we can actually make use of bylaw enforcement to move forward on that existing bylaw. How do we do safety inspections if we don't even know where they are? And really to get a robust understanding of the magnitude that may in fact be contributing in a big way to our housing crisis. Therefore, I'd like to move that council approve up to $15,000 from the municipal accommodation tax, MAT reserve, to engage a third-party firm to identify complete address information of short-term rentals operating within the city.
Okay, moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Carr. Discussion, Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to my colleague for bringing this forward. You know, we've been kind of playing footsie with the short-term accommodation for some time. And while I appreciate that it's somewhat of a good approach to take a soft approach and hope to gain compliance voluntarily, clearly we're seeing an explosion in these SDAs. And as my colleague pointed out, doing some searching, when she shared that number with me, I was floored in terms of the number. That takes away from the housing stock, pure and simple. And while these could either be long-term rentals or home ownership, instead they're becoming a quick turnaround. And we're short on our housing stock, and despite the fact that building is occurring, it's not occurring anywhere near the pace that it has to. We're no different than many other communities, and obviously economics does play a role. The fire and the bylaw code compliance is critical as well, and without identifying these, staff are at a loss in terms of making sure that people are safe when they are using them. So to me, this makes sense, and using municipal accommodation tax money is where it should be coming from, in hopes then that we also do recover licensing fees. So certainly we'll support this motion.
Councillor Chapman?
Thank you. Through you, I'll definitely be supporting this this motion as well. We are in a housing crisis, and short-term accommodations being on the rise, operating non-licensed and non-conforming to our bylaws because there is no enforcement. I fully support the investigation to ensure safety compliance as well as city expectations for our region. There's too many people that are getting away with not complying, and there's too many people who are being rejected for not being inside of the lines that we have already put in place. So unfortunately, this is definitely needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Seeing no more discussion, all in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any other motion or any other new business? Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Your Worship, and this is almost a housekeeping matter for the grant committee. We had dealt with this, it's a grant reconsideration for the Downtown Blues, Belleville Downtown Blues Festival, which will take place downtown, as the name implies, September 9 from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. There's been some minor adjustments to their needs. It's no more different than their original. It's just moving some money. But the motion, and I will so move, if I can get a seconder, that council approve a reconsideration of the grant request for the Downtown Blues, Belleville Downtown Blues Festival to reduce the approved municipal resource costs by $2,000 for a total of $6,724.54 plus HST, and increase financial assistance by $2,000 for a total of $7,000. And if I can get a second here.
Moved by Councillor Chapman.
That's seconded by Councillor Chapman. I'm moving. Yep, sorry. Just as a reminder, September 9th, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m.
I got to call the vote on that.
Oh, you're going to call
I
the
think
vote?
I was going to call a vote, yeah.
Sure, go ahead. Sorry, just as a reminder, September 9, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., Market Square, downtown as well. The event includes workshops by Paul Deniers, who's presenting How We Got the Blues at the library meeting room. Tony Vanny, a harmonica workshop at Theater in the Wings. Matt Smith, a slide guitar workshop. I think Councillor Alsop was going to take part in that. At the Theater in the Wings. And special performances by the Sean Dory Big Blues Band in Market Square at 12:30. Brian Leger Blues Band at 5 p.m. on the main stage. And the big act is the Jack DeKaiser Band, big name there, at 7 p.m. on the main stage. So Downtown Blues Festival, sure to be exciting, coming up in just a couple of short weeks. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Millette.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Saturday, September 30th, is the third National Day of Truth and Reconciliation in Canada. This is call number 80 to action. 2015, federal government released the Truth and Reconciliation, which included 94 calls of action, and to date, out of the 94 calls to action, 13 have been completed. So on Saturday, September the 30th, with council's approval shortly, we'll call for the vote on that one for National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. The Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee is quarterbacking this again for the city and working with our committee. We've got some exciting things planned just today. It's always wonderful to see how your colleagues, your classmates did in life. And I was reading an article last weekend, a guy that I went to high school with at Madawaska Valley District High School, a guy by the name of Todd Kuyak, who I have not seen since the last high school reunion in about 25 years ago, is the Executive Director of Reconciliation, Treaties, and Engagement at Canadian Heritage. So I had a good conversation with Mr. Kuyak today, and he's coming up with great ideas and wants to help us with the City of Belleville's Truth and Reconciliation Day, and we're also working with Indigenous leaders from Tyendinaga, Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte. So here is, under new business, the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee recommend that Council approve the use of Swicks Park Lions Pavilion for use by the committee and broader community for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation event on Saturday, September the 30th.
Moved by Councillor Kelly, second by Councillor Alsop. Discussion, all in favor?
Thank you.
I have a few housekeeping also under new business. The first is the Belleville Senators Loan Agreement and Guarantee. That bylaw number 2023-157 being a bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of a third amending agreement between the Corporation of the City of Belleville and Belleville Senators Incorporated, the estate of Eugene Melnick, and Capital Sports Holding Incorporated be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass this 23rd day of August 23. Moved by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Carr. All in favor? Carried. And the second to do with the Senators is the transfer of controlling interests, that the City of Belleville acknowledges and consents to the proposed change of ultimate control in the Belleville Senators Incorporation, and that the lease and license agreement be amended between the Corporation and the City of Belleville as landlord, and the Belleville Senators Incorporated may be further amended or supplemented from time to time. Moved by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? Carried. Any more new business? Councillor Thompson?
Sorry, I had my hand up, but you were...
Councillor Millette was disturbing me.
Yeah, I know. I just want to make one note that I did meet with Salvation Army Church about 10 days ago on the subject of the people being upset with their, and they do encourage everybody to call their office, 968-7394. They would be happy to entertain any questions they have, what's going on. Their building has started, and they have had a number of people come to the church, and they've answered their questions. And rather than trying to have another catastrophe, they're asking people to come to the church, ask the questions, and they will put everybody's, hopefully, mind to ease. What they're proposing is fantastic. People just need to get the answers to them. So please call 968-7394, and they'll get back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Moving along, motions, notice of motions, none. Announcements. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief announcement regarding the Planning Advisory Committee meeting that's being held on Tuesday, September 5th at 5:30 here in Council Chambers. One of the items for review or for introduction is the consolidated zoning bylaw. And I just wanted to speak very briefly on that. There seems to be a lot of public dialogue. It seems to have narrowed itself down to the RV bylaw, which is incorrect. RVs, backyard chickens, shipping containers, trailers are all components of how land use is done. And the city has had 3 bylaws in place for zoning: Belleville, Thurlow, and Sydney, based on various annexations and amalgamations over the past 25 years. This exercise, in compliance and within the provisions of the Planning Act, has been a long process with public meetings for online submissions, and Monday's meeting is an introductory meeting of which we will open it up to the public to provide comment to the committee. The committee will take those comments as well as any that are provided through the city email, which is planning@belleville.ca, and they will be returned to staff. Staff will analyze it, and sometime in the future we'll bring back the review to the Planning Advisory Committee, which the committee will do great work, and eventually we will provide a recommendation to City Council. So I just wanted to outline the process to make sure that people understand the process. They're welcome to come on Monday, September 5th. It is a public meeting. Tuesday, September 5th, and there will be an opportunity for members of the public to address the committee at that time. Thank you.
Other announcements? Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a proclamation. September 1st is World Polycystic Ovary Syndrome Awareness Day. PCOS affects up to 20% of women and is one of the most unserved areas of health, with 50 to 70% of women with PCOS going undiagnosed, untreated, and unsupported. PCOS is a serious genetic hormone, metabolic, and reproductive disorder. It can lead to lifelong complications in social disorders, obesity, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, endometrial cancer, plus other serious and life-threatening conditions. PCOS is also the leading cause of female infertility and the most common endocrine hormone disorder in women. World PCOS Day is an opportunity for those around the globe who are affected by polycystic ovary syndrome to come together in solidarity for PCOS awareness. To show support, Belleville landmarks will be lit in teal for this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Enright Miller. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Whereas community support has been critical throughout the Arthritis Society Canada's 75-year history, enabling the organization to fulfill its mission to fight the fire of arthritis, amen, with cutting-edge research, bold innovation, fiery advocacy, and evidence-based information and patient-centered support. Arthritis is not just arthritis. Arthritis is serious. It causes debilitating pain, restricts mobility, and diminishes the quality of life. 6 million Canadians, 1 in 5, live every day with the fire of arthritis, and there is no cure. Without a greater spotlight on this growing issue, the number of Canadians with arthritis will rise to over 9 million by 2040. Therefore, I proclaim September to also be Arthritis Awareness Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I too have a proclamation. I'd like to proclaim this coming September as Craniofacial Acceptance Month. Craniofacial Acceptance Month strengthens public awareness and helps build acceptance of facial differences. There are more than 2 million Canadians living with a facial difference, which may be congenital, like a cleft lip and palate, acquired through an accident or illness, or episodic, like rosacea and alopecia. In support of Craniofacial Acceptance Month, the Belleville sign, Bridge Street Bridge, and Fire Station No. 1 Memorial Garden will all be lit yellow from September 5 to 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Millette. And finally, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, just a couple of real positive messages. I was at AMO this past weekend in London, Ontario, representing the city. AMO is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. And for those watching, there are 444 municipalities across the province. And I had some councillors coming up. I kept note Brockville, Oshawa, London, and Owen Sound were asking, how did the Caribbean Festival go? So they saw the media attention across the province, thanks to Post Media and Chorus Television and Global News for getting that across the province. It was a very successful Caribbean Festival, thanks to the committee, the Chamber of the Downtown District. It was a celebration of culture through music, food, and games and dance. And I got a text from one of the members that were there that day with a food vendor. His name is Kevin from Caribbean Kitchen. It says, hi Sean, sold out most of the items. It was a blessing. I actually want a second booth next year. He speaks for all the food vendors. That was a pretty special day for all the side market hustle and the food vendors. And also, this past weekend, I had a chance to spend some time with the Belleville Dragon Boat Festival. We had teams in from Stratford, Kingston, Cobourg, Brighton participating, a real economic driver for the downtown. And Nancy Lewis and Heather Wilson from the city are involved with that. So we've had a great summer. I speak on behalf of the Economic Development Committee. It's all started on June, I believe it was 21st, with the Downtown at Dusk. And think of all the events that we've had in our city this past summer, and this is the final weekend with Quinte Exhibition. It's been nonstop, and people, I can tell you, across the province are taking note of the city of Belleville and all the activities and successful ones that we're having throughout the course of the summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. I'll need a motion now for the confirmatory bylaw resolution, that bylaw number 2023-156, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on August 28, 23, be read a first, second, third time, and finally pass this 23rd day of August 23. Councillor Alsop, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor, carried. And then the magic motion to adjourn. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Millette, all in favor, carried. Thank you very much, everybody.